Hello everybody, it's Tim here again, here another movie review, this time actually for something a little off the beaten track that I figured I'd do a review for. Sorry. Most of my reviews on my channel are for horror movies for the most part, or comic book films, but I figured I'd do something a little off the beaten track today, and I actually watched the movie Sound of Freedom, and I figured I'd do a review for that. Now, Sound of Freedom, this has been like a very controversial movie for some unknown reason. It's been controversial because of the fact that the actor who plays it, Jim Caviezel, is like a QAnon supporter or whatever. I think that's how you say it. I think the either the director or the guy Tim Ballard or whatever who the movie's based off of is too, or something like that. I know they're both Republicans, and some kind of controversy about them being like QAnon supporters or something. And I think that's how you say the word. I didn't even know what that was really, to be honest, until I looked it up. And according to Wikipedia, from what I read briefly, it just means like some kind of conspiracy about child trafficking or something like that that started as like an anti-Trump thing or something, or had something to do with Trump. It was something like that on the Wikipedia summary. I don't know. But I don't care about actors or people's personal lives. All I care about is the film itself. This movie, I'll go ahead and say it, I'd give it a 2.5 out of 4. It's decent. This is not a great movie. I wouldn't even say it's a good movie. It really could have been just a direct-to-video film, but at the same time, I'm glad it went to theaters and that it made money, because apparently it did. Glad it made money just for the fact that it's bringing more eyes to the whole child trafficking thing and all that. But at the same time, this movie doesn't really bring anything new to the whole child trafficking thing that 100 episodes of Law & Order SVU haven't already covered. And honestly, some of those episodes probably did it better than this movie. At least some of the better episodes did. And that shows kind of a crappy melodrama in some of it too. But this movie's decent. Jim Caviezel does a good job in the movie. It's a very slow-paced movie, so there's not a lot going on. And on one hand, it's like, well, maybe they need to stick to the true story or whatever. All films change stuff, though, and I'm sure this one did, too, from the supposed true story, which I've heard some claims come out saying it's not actually a true story and that Tim Ballard lied about some of it or whatever or something like that, but that's whatever. Until it gets absolutely proven that it's fake, it might as well be. I mean, I'm not going to get into that. I'm going for the movie itself. So it's supposedly based off a true story, and the whole Jim Caviezel's acting in it is good. The movie's a bit too slow paced. It starts at the beginning. I like how realistic it is with like this chick who's coming there to act like she's taking these kids in for a photo shoot or whatever to, I guess, model or something. And she brings them all in there, and of course we know where this is going because it's just like any episode of Law & Order, like I said, SVU, where another chick's setting them up so she can basically kidnap them, and she's working for some sex trafficker or whatever. And I do like the setup. It is slow, and it gives the movie atmosphere, and it sets it up, and gives it that creepy feeling that a movie like this needs. Sorry about the cough. I don't know why I'm coughing so much here. But I've heard some people say that this movie was like hard to watch for them or something like that because of some of the children scenes and everything. And I'm like, yeah, there's some like uneasiness to like one or two moments because of the way the movie's going, but there's nothing here that's really that hardcore to watch. There's way worse stuff than what happens in this movie in episodes of Law & Order SVU in some of those episodes than what happens here. This is pretty tame, really, but does a good job establishing the atmosphere. And of course, you got Jim Caviezel, who arrests this one dude or whatever who's like helping out with the child trafficking, and he like pretends to be a pedophile and gets information out of him, which I thought was kind of neat, how he pretends to be one so he can get the information or whatever. And then of course he's like, you're under arrest, and then he's like, but you told me, and he's like, never trust a pedophile. Jim Caviezel's line there is pretty funny. Jim Caviezel, like I say, he does a good job in the movie. There's not a whole lot for him to like chew on or do in this movie, because this is really a very, like I said, slow-paced movie. There's not like a lot of action in it, and that's one thing I do think they should have added. They should have spruced the movie up a little bit to add a little bit more action, maybe one or two more, like maybe even fight scenes, or just one or two more action scenes to it, just to give it some oomph. There's not enough oomph to this movie is what I'm saying. It's a bit too slow paced, and maybe that stays true to the supposed true story. At the same time, if you're making this into a movie, you need something here to make this a little more cinematic. This movie's a little bit too flat at points. But overall, though, Jim Caviezel does a good job. I think Mira Sorvino, plays his wife in this. She's barely in the movie, maybe like 2 scenes, but I haven't seen her in forever. But Jim Caviezel, he goes and they do this big pedophile bust or whatever. Or they do this pedophile bust where they get this fat dude who's got this little boy, and you find out the little boy has a sister who is also taken, and that's basically what the movie's about. Jim Caviezel trying to find the sister, and in doing so, he also rescues all these kids from the part of the pedophile ring that's on this island. You get one tense moment that's played pretty good, where the dude who's running the place puts a gun to his head or whatever, because he tries to stop the guy from raping the little boy or whatever that he's got with him, so he's like, no, this one's for me or whatever, something like that. And he's trying to he's trying to get the little boy away from him, and he's pointing the gun at Jim Caviezel's head or whatever. Jim Caviezel's not flinching because he's trying to play into his character and everything and all that, and he's acting like he's crazy and everything. And of course he doesn't shoot him and all that, and they just like take the boy back, and then that's when the police come in, raid them. They rescue the kids, but the little girl's not among them. You find out the little girl was sold to some drug kingpin cartel dude or something named Scorpio or something like that. So Jim Caviezel goes off to find him, and one kind of corny thing in the movie is the little boy, when he gets rescued from the fat dude, he has like a necklace or whatever that says like Jim Caviezel's name in Spanish or whatever, talking about him being a savior. That felt like a movie thing thrown in there that was a little on the nose. But he goes off and he goes to the drug dealer's place or whatever on this island. He acts like he's bringing in vaccines and all that, like he's a doctor, and he's got this other dude with him who's helping him out. But they only allow one person in. So Jim Caviezel goes in. He goes in there and he waits for them all to get drunk and everything at night and start falling asleep. And he goes in there to rescue the little girl. The main dude, Scorpio, goes in there to, like, I guess, rape the little girl. But it don't get too graphic or anything. He just like starts unbuckling his belt or whatever. And then Jim Caviezel shows up behind him and he's like, tells the little girl to like close her eyes or whatever because he's gonna attack the dude. And they shoot it kind of artsy where it's not like overly action or whatever, or overly gruesome where Jim Caviezel like is fighting the dude. And you kind of get the idea that he's stabbing him in the gut or whatever. And so that Scorpio dude's dead. For sure it's a Scorpio dude. He's dead. And so he rescues the little girl, takes off. He's running out of the place, sneaks out of there pretty quickly, pretty easily. Gets on his boat with his partner. They take off. They drop and hop in the vehicle, and they drive out of there. They get shot at a little bit, and then pretty much that's the end of the movie. He gets back to to the mainland, and that's it. He saves the little girl, and then it goes off with the little girl like playing music or whatever in her home, and it's supposed to signify like, you know, the sound of freedom. And they also reference that at another point in the movie where these other little kids are playing after they're rescued. And it says like God's children are not for sale or whatever. That is a little on the nose, that whole God's children not for sale thing or whatever. That saying that's a little on the nose, because I've heard some people accuse this of being like faith-based propaganda or something. I don't really get that, because there really shouldn't be anything wrong with a movie being faith-based. It doesn't make a movie good or bad automatically if it's faith-based. It's all in the execution, but that shouldn't matter at all regardless. There's maybe one or two references to God in this, but that's pretty much about it. Other than like the only part that felt kind of on the nose was the ending where it says God's children aren't for sale. But I have no problem with faith-based films. When it comes to movies, it's about the execution, not really the subject matter. It's about the execution. Like, if you got a problem with a movie just being faith-based or about God or whatever, or mentioning God, that's more you, not the movie. I'm sorry. But, well, I'm not sorry. That's a fact. It is you, it's not the movie. But as far as, like, the movie goes, it goes off with talking about how there's more children, like, being sold and trafficking or stuff like that today than there ever was or something. And so I like the fact that the movie's trying to be informative at the end and all that. But overall, it just kind of feels like a more low-weight version of the movie Taken with Liam Neeson. Honestly, this film does. So yeah, overall it's decent. It's a decent watch. Would I ever watch this movie again? Probably not. There's nothing to really write home about this movie or to really recommend like seeing it multiple times or whatever. Like, I'm glad the movie gets more information out there. It gets the whole child trafficking thing out there more to the public even more, which I'm pretty sure most people know about child molesters and stuff like that, though, and child like trafficking. I'm pretty sure most people know that this exists. But I'm still glad that there's another movie out there that's doing well, that's getting in the public eye. Even if I think the movie's just decent, at least it's, you know, doing some good. But yeah, overall, it's a decent flick. Nobody's really bad in the movie in terms of performances. The kids do a good job. All the actors do a good job. Overall, decent flick. Would I recommend it? Only if you're interested in the subject matter of this supposed true story, really. Only if you're interested in that. But other than that, I would probably say it's a rental. I wouldn't recommend watching it in theaters, like I said, unless you're just really interested in the subject matter. Yeah, overall, 2.5 out of 4. Decent flick. Nothing to really write home about, but it's decent. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again.